Get out. Don't let me stop you.
Wasn't planning on it, Father. Hades is the latest game from very good and nice developer Supergiant Games. I mean, that sounded weirdly like I'd been paid to say that or something, but I just actually like them. My name's Mike Williams, and this is Jake Klukowski.
Hello, 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 hello.
So you've been playing a lot of Hades since it entered early access in December of last year, haven't you?
Yeah, so I didn't get it in December. I did get it a little bit later on. In fact, it was like the Murder, Death, Kill update, which is like the last one.
Very nice.
Yeah, so I think it's been about 60 days since that launched, and it was a bit of
I love that that's the point you came in. You were like,
yeah,
now I'm interested.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And it probably was down to that. So I got onto it and I was really enjoying it, but then I thought, well, I wanted to do a video about this earlier, but I thought I'll wait for the next big update because by then I'll have plenty of experience with the game. And there we go, I've kind of spoiled it really. The reason that we're talking about it is because there's been a beefy update called the Beefy Update, which came out just a couple of days ago, and it's the 4th major update.
I like that. I like it. It's just sometimes when someone just sort of gets in your good books and you're like, everything they do, you're like, yeah.
Well, I mean, the Beefy Update sounds good enough as it is, right? Without any extra, yeah? But it also is the introduction to the Minotaur, who's a giant cow, right?
Well, before we go into the complexities of the Minotaur, can you tell us a little bit about the gameplay in terms of the presentation, how you find it, what the sort of gameplay loop is and stuff? It's like, it's from that top-down isometric sort of point of view, which, in my opinion, this studio's best games have been from that perspective. So tell us about how the game actually plays and how you find it.
I guess in its most simple, stripped down way, the game plays like a roguelike, and what that might mean to people that aren't aware, because there's a lot of games like that. You might have heard of the term but not been quite sure what it means. It's a game that's based on runs or attempts, and normally death is a reset of your progress in the game. So every time you die, you'll be starting the game again. Now, to avoid like the impracticalities of repetition, a lot of levels are kind of procedurally generated, or there's randomization. It means each time you attempt the game again, you're going to have something a little bit different. It makes each run, each life feel unique. So the game that I'm liking in this too is The Binding of Isaac. So it's very much like that. Now, you're playing as Zagreus, who's trying to escape the underworld. As you can imagine, like from a graphical standpoint, there's a lot of like lava and flames and darkness, skulls, But it's not handled in a tacky way. It's not like super Tim Burton. It's like, I think anything that you would have seen by Supergiant. Almost like a comic book or something like that. It almost looks like it could be cel-shaded. It's very stylized, and you have dialogue with characters, and when you do, like, what looks like a nice bit of concept art pops up, a nice bit of 2D art to show you the characters, and a lot of the characters are well-known gods from actual Greek mythology, so to see the artists taking that and put their own spin on it is really cool. So I've got to say, stylistically, it's like spot on, considering it's dealing with like things that people already know, like Hades and Zeus and stuff,
Yeah, no, definitely. I think they did that a lot in Pyre, where they had the cutout sort of style. That's how all the characters were represented. There was no really 3D overworld or anything like that. It was a very like artistic approach to the game. Like, it was like reading a book more than playing a game in a lot of ways. But that's how they did the characters there. They would pop up a lot, and I mean, visually, it definitely matches up in terms of how the characters are drawn and how they look and stuff. Too, you're absolutely right that there is definitely like a continuity between, in the art style through all the games, and that, I think that's actually very good, that you can look at a game and think that is that studio's game. Like, who's made that just based on how it looks, and we're not talking about gameplay or how it looks like it's playing. We're literally just talking about the colours and the way the characters are drawn.
Yeah, it's a real feat.
And you can totally tell
I
that.
think the soundtrack for these types of games, like everything Supergiant do has a soundtrack. Like, you're the guy that really put this onto my radar.
Oh, I absolutely love it.
The soundtrack to these games are amazing. This is no different. This is kind of very inspired by that old Greek mythology. Like, I guess is it like a lyre, or a lute, something like a stringed harp instrument, There's stuff like that. There's a lot of like strings and plucky sounds that you can imagine would be played by some sort of winged character wearing a robe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess that, like, it's got a lot of style, but the substance is there story-wise, which is nice for a roguelike game, because most roguelike games, the loop kind of revolves around dying and coming back to life and trying again. So how do you fit a story into that without it there being shown signs of repetition? So you're playing as the son of Hades who's trying to escape, and every time you die you end up back into like the main hall, and you can speak to like Hades, who's just sitting there kind of mocking you like, oh, you died again, did you, Zagreus? Or you can speak to like the three-headed dog, like, or like Achilles, who's kind of your mentor. There's the caretaker of the main hall, Nyx. There's loads of like characters, and every time you die, one of them will have something new to say to you, which can push the story forward as well. Like you learn sort of the history of Zagreus, and maybe after about 10 attempts of getting through the game. So it kind of, the carrot on the stick, as well as the gameplay loop and the fact it's going to promise you a different gameplay run every time, I guess, is that you're learning more about the story each time you die. So it really makes death feel like progress story-wise, you know?
I mean that's definitely a key trait to a game like this. If you're gonna make it like a hook that people want to keep going back to, you got to, even though you're resetting and going, you know, back you go, you get that sort of feeling. You do need to feel like you're getting somewhere, that you've learnt something, that you've gained something from that last run. And that's I think that's essential. By the way, little side note there, the composer of these games, who's worked on all these games, have got amazing soundtracks, the Supergiant games, is a guy called Darren Korb, and you can listen to it all on Spotify. It's fucking really good. Anyway, I wanted to ask you a little bit about like the voice acting and stuff, and if I know it's in early access, so I'm not sure how much of that is actually in there, and if it's going to be in there at all. Are any of the characters voiced at this point?
Yeah, all of the characters are voiced. And
how is that? Is it because that's very important to their games as well? Because the voice acting has been very good in the past games.
It's strong. A lot of the same voice actors have returned. Like so for this update, it added like a new kind of end level boss for the new area that they added. One's the Minotaur, like I mentioned, and one was Theseus. And the voice actor who plays Theseus, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's like a kind of Supergiant Games vet, because fans were excited that he'd returned, and I noticed on Twitter he was like, oh, I can't believe I got the opportunity to come back. But that's one of the big pulls of this game. That's the thing that really caught my attention straight away, is that like most of these roguelike games can give you this satisfying loop, but the graphics give it a +1, the music gives it a +1, the narrative gives it a +1, and that presentation of having every line is fully voice acted, and there's so much, like I've not heard any repetition at all when it comes to the voice acting. So it's like, I've got to tell you, like the amount of effort they've put in is unreal. I read somewhere that there's like 1,000 lines have been added in the past 2 patches. So like they must have to keep getting the same gods, that the voice actors are different gods, to come back and add things, and it's really there, I've got to tell you.
That's actually a key ingredient, I think, and that's something that was sort of lacking in Pyre, and that's not because of, you know, that was actually a creative decision that they took to make it a text. You know, you just read the what you were seeing, you would read the character's dialogue rather than listen to it, and they'd accompany that with just like a little grunt or a little, you know, there's a lot of like little cute little creatures and stuff in that game, and there's a lot of like, you know, sort of Pikachu sounding noises. I guess Pikachu just says the word Pikachu, so that's not very accurate. It's like, you know what I mean though, some cute animalistic like little noises, and it just missed, like in Transistor and Bastion, you've got like that narrator type feel to it, where your actions and stuff, someone's commenting on them. In Transistor, it was the actual sword that you're holding, that, you know, that's who's talking to you, so that the sword is commenting on the things that you're killing and the places you're running through and stuff, and that's so good, and you know, it's such an important ingredient that sits there with like the music and the graphics and the story that you're in. So I'm really glad to hear you say that and talk like that about it, because that is something that I definitely enjoy. I love some really good voice acting. So
there's a lot of narration and like fourth wall breaking. There is fourth wall breaking in this update. Like I was lucky enough to beat the new update, which is apparently quite hard first time because of some, well, like no pun intended, but godlike RNG. Like you'll see in the footage, like I had ridiculous power-ups, and and then like Hades is like, well, I guess the mortals will make me open up the next level soon or whatever. But there is a narrator in it, and Zagreus, who's the guy that you control, does kind of talk to him and tells him to shut up and stuff like that. It's very cool. for those that have already kind of played the game and they're just patient enough to be listening to this to hear about what the new stuff that's been added is, because I don't know how much stuff there is on YouTube already about this, I'm happy to run you through it. So basically, much like Let's Talk About the Binding of Isaac, where you go through each level and it starts off as the basement and then you go into the womb and then hell. Well, in this, you're going through different fields of the underworld. So you start off in the main underworld and you go to like Asphodel. And now you go to Elysium, so the fields of Elysium, which are quite well-known mythological location. And this is a nice new biome, very green compared to Asphodel, which was very... I don't know, it was like the inside of Mount Doom or something. There was a lot of lava and the floor was actually lava, so you had to be really careful. This is a lot safer that way. The traps are pretty dangerous and the enemies are quite tricky. Some will respawn when you kill them, and if you leave them for too long they can pick up their weapons and come and fight again. But yeah, it looks really nice. There's nice characters that you meet along the way that aren't just the boss. I don't want to kind of spoil that because it was pretty cool when you find out who it is. And I guess the crucial change in this update is that they've completely redesigned the dash ability, which sounds stupid for people that haven't played it. For people that have, it's really different now. And I think, I'm pretty sure when I say this, I'm accurate. It's like the entirety of the dash has iframes, so you can just dash your way to victory if you've got like the ZEUS bolt or something. I know this is all gibberish if you've not played it, but you've got to believe me, the dash is like, whoo.
Wow. You heard it here first.
Yeah, there's new enemies. There's lots of nice new like exchange dialogue between the gods when you pick up their power-ups and stuff like that, or if you beat like one of the gods' trials with their own boon, they'll be like, "Oh, I can't believe you."
With their what, mate? What was that?
So a boon is like a power-up that the gods give you. So the game's kind of nicely generated, and when you go into a room, you'll have like Aphrodite, Athena, Ares, Poseidon. One of them will. You know, it's random each time, and Poseidon might give you, like, I don't know, waves that come out of your weapon, or, Zeus...
Waves that come out of your boon.
Yeah, well, yeah, that sounds like you want to see some sort of medical professional. But Zeus is the boy, really. His boons are the best, like, you dash about and you can zap people about. They've buffed my favourite weapon in the game as well, which was the shield, which is absolutely overpowered now. It was a little underpowered, apparently. I didn't really realise it, but then when I was playing it, I was like, whoa, this is strong. So,
but this is, I always think about this. At what point is something powered?
Yeah.
At what point is it perfectly powered?
Yeah.
I guess that's the trick. I guess that's why I'm not a game developer, innit? It's like, I can't imagine what it's like.
The art of balance.
Running a game like... Yeah, exactly. Running a game like Destiny or something where there's a lot of different numbers and you've got to make sure that it all, feels powered and not underpowered.
Nice and balanced.
There's exactly.
There's a lot of changes. This one was 60 days or so after the last one, although because the game's in early access, every time you sort of boot the game up, it will give you a little timer at the bottom right to when the next update is, and the next update is only about 35 days away. So if that major update adds the next and final, from what I believe, biome, then we're going to be approaching full release sooner rather than later.
So there's no date as yet, is there? But that's it feels like it's coming along very nicely. I think I'm actually going to hold it. So you've been playing it on the PC, right?
Yeah. So it's an Epic Store exclusive, about £15 on PC. I've bought it on there. I'm playing it with an Xbox pad, and it's just making me think, oh my god, this needs to come to Switch.
Yeah, exactly. And I think although I don't know, because I did play Transistor on my big living room telly, and that was a very nice experience, so I might go for it. Mind you, I could just dock the Switch in it. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll do that. I'll get it on Switch and dock it. Nice one. That's sorted. Yeah. That's Hades, which is coming out sometime soon, but there's regular updates if you want to play it early, like Jake is, through the Epic Store on PC. If you want to follow the development, by the way, a little recommendation, right? Danny O'Dwyer on NoClip is doing like a weird dev diary thing where they've just sort of given the developers cameras. It's actually very interesting. They've just filmed a lot of their actual day-to-day stuff, and that's not like a one-off documentary or anything. That's like a regular sort of independent dev diary sort of thing.
And Hades
so if you're interested
games.
In this game, Hades is the game, mate. That's what they're following. They're following the development of Hades. So yeah, so that's worth checking out if you're interested in the game, you want to know more about it, and you don't want to play it just yet, like me. Let us know if you're playing it already. Let us know what you think about it down in the comments. Thanks, Jake, for giving us your thoughts, mate. We'll see you all soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.